everyone. How's everybody out there doing? Lower my chair a little bit. Let's see. Welcome to Paranormal Round Table. I'm your host, Josh Turner, in case you didn't know. PRT for short, or Pretty Righteous Time. Pretty Red Tricycles. Another gang I'm in. I'm in several gangs. That's just one of them. Try to be as involved in the community as possible. I have one of my gangs doing some graffiti right now in a hospital. I like to give back to the community what they give me. Being is that I'm in Austin, they give me a hard time. So you get what you give. We're living in Austin's interesting, let me tell you. Oh, we got a good show planned for tonight. I'm hoping that it goes well. Last night we had some obligations. It was, it had a little bit of family thing going on, but it really just was work. I mean, work, folks, it's a very big part of our lives. And, it just is. I mean, you know, I could not do it. I had 3 guys out with strep throat. Because now strep throat's going around along with the strain of the month. Whatever. What is the flavor of the month called? BA, A2, T2, KQ, elemental P, something or another. We hate you, whatever. Whatever strain they've cooked up this week is that, yeah, and so people are sick. So I don't know what, you know. We have a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to say something, you know, people are jumping all over Matthew McConaughey. I actually had the pleasure of meeting him once, and he's not, well, not just once. He lived here in Austin. We used to get together and get naked and play the bongos together and smoke a lot of pot. I'm just kidding. We didn't do that. But anyway, plus my friend did the wiring for his ex-girlfriend's house, which was under Bullock. Years ago, like he did the sound system, whatever. So, you know, living in Austin, you know, especially back then, you meet a lot of famous people. I met Forrest Whitaker. I met a bunch of famous people. And McConaughey's always around. He was always around. He was downtown, you know, hanging out downtown. I got to meet, like, I think Kevin Durant one time, and Ricky Williams was always down there hanging out. You know, you get to meet these people. Earl Campbell, I knew him quite well. At one time, he had his restaurant down there. We weren't like best friends or anything, but I met these people, you know, but you know, it's everybody's jumping on about his comments or whatever. I kind of agree with some of what he said. If you listen to actually what he's saying that, and what I agree with, is that you shouldn't be allowed to just walk in and grab a weapon. You know, and I don't want to make anybody mad on either side of the aisle, but we need common sense. It's easier for me because I have federal clearance. I have to go through extensive hardcore background checks to do what I do. So I've already been checked upside down and backwards. So, you know, it's easier to get approved for a weapon. But it just seems like I don't think an 18, 19-year-old kid should be allowed to walk in there and walk out with an assault rifle. Nor do I think that it's just fill out a questionnaire and that's, I think you need a psychoval. And I think it needs to be certain questions answered, and I think it needs to be a certain way, because I don't believe that certain people should be allowed to have that. Look at this guy, look at this kid that did, he was a kid. But he was also psycho. He was psycho, completely psycho. You know, just like I said, here in Austin a while back, some guy stabbed a guy in the chest and said, "Oh, sorry, thought he was the Antichrist. Can I go now?" And literally argued with the cops that he needed to leave to find the real Antichrist so he could kill him. He did it right in front of two of my three or four, actually, my friends that worked down there, but two in particular witnessed it, and they were just like, "This is nuts." These people are walking around, and then, like the other day, we were pulling into a store, and there was a guy in front of the doors at the Exxon doing this and punching. So I just told Anthony, I said, let's go. And we just left and went down the other store, it was off of 290 and 35. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. We have a mental health problem in this society. And people who don't like guns just want to keep saying, it's about the guns, take the gun. Let me tell you something. I took my 9mm and left it on the table for an entire week, and not once did it jump up and shoot a bunch of people. It still has not done it. I put it in its case up there, and it's not. My 38's over here. It hasn't attacked anyone that I know of. I mean, have you? Have you? I don't think so. He seems like a good guy. But anyway, the point is, if somebody's crazy, they're going to be crazy. They're going to kill you and hit you with whatever they need to hit you with. A few years ago, another 19-year-old wackadoodle beheaded his roommate right there on the downtown in the campus in UT. That barely made headlines. It was like, bloop, and it was gone. I will say this. Have you noticed how many shootings take place during certain administrations? Look into that. Why do they happen in clusters, and why do they happen under certain watches? A little weird. I just started looking into that, and I was like, okay, that's a little funny. Especially since I talked to someone not too long ago about MK Ultra, and I was like, wow. Hope you get him on the show, but he's actually not famous, but he's known, does music, and so I don't know how open he is to coming on the show and talking about his experiences, but I do have the pleasure of actually communicating with some famous people. There's a few actors that I'm friends with. There's a country music singer, a couple NBA basketball players, 2 NFL football players, 2 Major League Baseball players. I've actually they watch my show, they listen to my show. I'm like, it's crazy. Shocked. I have not met Mr. Depp, and I did wear my Aquaman shirt and watch because, Aquaman. Because he beat Amber Turd. And Amber Turd's actually about 15 miles from here. That's where she was from. I know people who went to school there said she was insane. That's their opinion. I don't know her. I don't know you, Mrs. Turd, and I can't speculate other than you did a lot of lying. That's all I really know. And she would bait this guy, then record it, and then he would have the whole recording because he was actually onto her. What's crazy is that people are like, she got railroaded. She should have been shut down a long time ago. This turd should have been flushed down the punch bowl a long time ago, but it didn't happen. And he had to go through all this mess. But anyway, this is a shout out to Kathy Martin. She actually makes these. And I did message her and tell her that I was going to be promoting her stuff on the show. This is really cool stuff, man. Kathy Harper, I'm sorry. And so she makes these. And if you're somebody who's won one of the contests recently, this is a fold-out wallet thingy that she makes. And it's got Bigfoot on it. See, and it's really cool. It's really neat. I like it. I think it's cool. That's one of the things she made. We bought these when we were down in Mineola, and then she's got this right here. It's like a little thing you put, stuff in or whatever. And this is a hand towel. It's got the little Bigfoot thing. She's making me some that have Dogman logos on there. And there's another little wallet deal. It's a different design. So that's pretty cool. She makes all those. It's K&W threads. That's what she does. You probably find her on Facebook. I sent out some. They're like hot bowl holders. My stepmother actually gave me one for Christmas year before last. It's the only useful thing she's ever really given me, but it was pretty cool. You can actually you can put bowls of hot stuff on them, and then you can carry them around so you don't get your hand hot, whatever. So that's, she makes those, and I sent those out in the last giveaways. Hold on one second. How long you be gone? Hand me that stuff right there, so I don't have to jump up in the middle of the show.
to get something to eat from across the street.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, we're gonna go as soon as this is over, because I gotta give everybody's starving. Yeah. So, guys leaving me so you can go get food. Careful in that truck. Jeez, got so much stuff going on. So one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight, I'm going to bring someone on, and hopefully she's going to talk about her experiences. She's someone I've known for a long time, and she's got a lot of stories, but she works a lot, and so it's hard to get it coordinated. So hopefully she can do it while she's working. So we'll see how this goes. I got a couple really creepy stories, and my wife's like, "You should tell those on the show with this particular episode." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I should do that." So anyway, shout out to Kathy Harper for making those. Also, check this out. It's got my wife's name on it. It's a metal tumbler, and it's got Frankenstein's monster on there. Isn't that cool? And this was made by Frances Bribrieska. She's a really good family friend of my wife's. Her dad, Frank, is a really good friend of my wife's. He's a very intelligent guy. And they've been best friends for years, and they talk all the time, and sometimes I join in and talk on the phone with them, and they live out in California. But they're nice people, and Frances made that. And I'm trying to get her to make me one that's a Dogman, like a werewolf, Anyway, prtpodcast.com, Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. That's the email address. Send me your stories, or you can hit me up on Facebook. Like I said, I'm sorry I didn't make it in last night. I had a lot going on, and we just ended up at dinner late by the time we were done with everything, and then I had to go in and do a bunch of work because we had stuff that was uncovered, and my job is, I can't turn my back on it. I have to do it. It's what pays our bills. The show is nice, but it doesn't pay my bills. I wish it would, but it doesn't. And thank you for the donations. Chris Clough, of course, thank you. And Fat Squatch. Those that donate, typically the same people that donate, I appreciate it. I wish more people would help. I'm not telling you need to donate, but I'm telling you need to donate. Okay? Got a lot of stuff to pay for with the freaking conference and everything else we got going on. It's just a lot of freaking stuff we got to do. Make things easier. But you're not expected to, and you don't have to donate to listen to the show. But it is very appreciative. It is very appreciated, especially right now. But that's fine. We'll just be out in the street and be homeless, and we'll see if I can do a show for you then when I'm out in the street. I'll do it from my car. How about that? I'm just kidding, folks. I'll do it in the gym, in the bathroom. So, go to the gym and do pranks like my friend Eric Konevsky, the Russian gangster. Go into Chipotle and start making my own food. He just literally did a skit where he went into Subway and made a sandwich and walked out. And the guy that worked there was just standing there like, "What are you doing?" Guy's nuts. So one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is shadow people. And I had a weird experience the other day. And this is weird because I don't know if any of you guys remember Stefan, who was on the show, and me and him and my wife had a weird experience seeing a canid cryptid type thing. And I was like, what in the heck is that? And so it had green eyes. It was very weird looking. And it was while we were talking about it. Well, once again, Stefan was with us. He was in the back seat, but he didn't see it. And neither did my wife because they were busy chatting and there were people in the truck with us. And so I think there was 3 or 4 of us. I think it was Stefan and maybe somebody else. But anyway, we were in the back of the truck and I was driving and I was kind of looking over at my wife and I looked again and I see this is no bull crap. I saw this dog. It was right there on Duval. I saw this dog running across the street. It was 4 a.m. So it was an hour after the witching hour, and I see this the head looked weird. Like there was like, I didn't see a head. Like I just saw like what looked like a dog, but with a really curled tail. And I was like, look at that. It was very large. And I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm going like, what in the heck is that? I mean, it looked like a dog without a head. Like there was something there where the head should have been, but I was just like, what am I looking at? And I saw it go across the road. Oh God, it was so weird. And so when I got up to it, I looked and there's like this metal, because there's like a small bridge, like not really a bridge, there's like a creek that runs under there, but it's not, I want to call it a bridge, but there's like this metal guard right there that it had to have ducked under. And then there's metal bars to keep people from falling 10 feet off into the creek or whatever. So it was really weird. And so I looked over and I was like, where did that go? It went into that spot and was gone. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what the heck was that? And it looked like a brownish dog. I don't know how to describe it. It had weird looking tail. And it was moving on 4 legs. Like I saw it and it went and I told Stephan, I said, every time you're with us, we see something weird when we're driving around. And it was like 4, it wasn't 4 in the morning. I think it was like almost 5. It was just weird. Thank you, North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. Thank you for that donation. Is that Tom? Is that you? But thank you. Thank you for the donation. Everything helps. We're trying to get this money together for this conference. Folks, the conference, Eventbrite, is where you get your tickets. They're only $30, and we still have some left. We sold quite a few. We've sold over half, so I'm expecting a pretty good crowd. A lot of people are like, well, I'll buy them at the door. You may not be able to. So if you want to go, get your tickets now. Like I said, it's going to be a huge event with a lot of speakers, a lot of people, a lot of well-known people. Ken has been helping me with that. I've been so busy lately, I haven't been able to do much. But I am trying to get some inventory together so I can take it to the show, and I'm going to give some of it away, and I'm going to sell some of it. I'm going to give a few people what I can give away. But I'm going to buy a bunch of these souvenir things that I'm going to give to everybody that shows up. It's going to cost me a grip, but I'm going to do it because I want everybody to have something to leave with. Right? So if you're not from Texas, you'll get something. Somebody said something about the horny toad that I gave somebody. We call them horny toads, horn toad, whatever, that I gave one of the listeners that won. How you win the contest is very simple. We dropped this episode on Paranormal Round Table group, and if your comment, you leave a comment on the show, and if you're picked, you win, and you get sent an autographed book and a multitude of other things you might get. Thank you for those donations there. Thank you for that $50 donation. Hope this helps. Thank you. It does. We're trying to get this done. Madeline Chap, thank you. My husband and I are excited for the conference. We were able to get VIP tickets. Oh, cool. We'll be driving down from Chicago. Can't wait to meet you all. Actually, Chicago's where one of the stories tonight I have is from. I was telling somebody this story the other day, another podcaster, because I'm open to sharing my stories, and they were like, hey, you have any stories that are, kind of creepy, this and that? I need, because they're a ghost-based thing or whatever. And she was like, maybe I'll put it in my book, whatever, and so her and her husband are really good people. I said, yeah, I can give him, so I gave him the story, and I said, I hope this helps. You can do this, whatever. And Martis quit. Cat's in here. He came to the studio. Well, he kind of stays here, but anyways, he's just he's been acting up. You got my brother's in here too, helping out. We're trying to clean the studio this week. So he's okay. He's okay as long as he's not here messing with the cords. I'm fine. Yeah, you can close. You don't have to. No, that's fine. I don't care. It's not going to bother me as long as he doesn't attack anything. So So, what happened, I gave him this story, but I gave him the wrong city. I had them mixed up, and so I apologize for that. But it actually happened outside Chicago, not the city that I gave them. Sometimes it happens, folks. You get like so many stories, and you don't always have the right area. You're going like, okay, this is where this happened, and then later on you're like, oh crap, that's not where it happened. Typically that I don't make a lot of mistakes. I'm not trying to say I'm perfect or anything, but I don't make a lot. I don't get people complaining. Maybe a couple times, but for the most part, I try to be pretty spot on with what I tell and the way I tell it. I try to get every ounce of information I can before I put the story out there, and I try to get the coordinates correct. And I don't get to actually speak with everyone. A lot of times I'm just doing it off of their emails. So thank you, Madeline Chat, for that donation. I am very tired tonight. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, this was a really creepy story that I got. It was right outside of Chicago. And I'm trying to get some more people to come into the chat so we can go over some stuff. Let me read all this Patreon stuff real quick. And I appreciate everyone that's joined the Patreon and has become a member, and it really helps make things easier. Makes it worth doing. It's like your work is actually producing something. So Lauren Russo, Andrew, Gloria Smith, Stephen Bates, Peter Haralamos, Ricardo Ramirez, Spencer Rowley, Vicky Walker, Stephen Rivas, Michael Turner, Martin Hertel, Charles Hamill, Melissa, Taylor, Alexandra Oric, Maynard W., Adam Jinks, Jim Kovach, Cassidy Lee, Kenny Irish, Josh and Callie Herrera, Vulcan Death Grip, David Allman, Christy, Shonda Hardinger, Brady Matsunaga, Cyrili, David Vigil, Fat Squatch, Sonia Girding, Dorothy Metcalf, Mimi Piccolelli, Polly G, Melissa Koyman, Pauline Rome, Stephen Hall, Miguel Guetta, Eric Garcia, Tim Lewis, Super Hornet 1, Debbie Wolf, Graydon McKee, Extreme Reality Check, James Estrada, Tim Bernard, Ricardo Herrera, Titan Dead Man Walking, Guy, Derek Tribble, Dick Richards, Joyce Brunette, Barbara Blendy, Martin Hertel, Terry Fusler, Chris Clough, Curtis Turner, Alexander Murphy, and Matthew Durgo. Thank you for that. You're a $10 or a $20 tier if your name was mentioned. John Villafranca, thank you for that donation. You always help out. I appreciate those that help. And I appreciate everybody that listens, but those that put themselves out and help with the show, it's greatly appreciated. Sometimes it's like, it can be a grind at times. Madeline Chapp says, my husband grew up on the south side of Chicago. We had a friend who grew up in a super haunted Victorian house. He's got a lot of stories and pics. Oh, send them to me. Send me his information. I'd love to tell the story. Let me give you this story that I got. Okay, first story of the night. We'll start off right here. This happened right outside of Chicago, folks. Okay, and this is a creepy one. Like, this guy told me, I was like, man, I got to do a ghost episode, because this one, I don't know if you classify it as ghost or what you would classify it as, but he went out to smoke a cigarette, and he was living in an apartment complex. Now, don't get confused. There's another one. That's what I did when I gave the story. I gave the locations, they're backwards. There's a similar story to this one, and I actually had to go back and double check. Okay, because this one, there were two stories that were given to me about 3 months apart, and they were very similar. Well, this one was the apartment complex. They were building an apartment complex, and the apartment complex was finished, and he was the, I think, fifth or sixth tenant to live there. There were 12 buildings, or I think he said 11, and then the 12th building, I think, was the office. There were 12 buildings, but 11, I think he said, I believe, that were actually apartment numbered buildings, okay? So he was living in building 6, and there was no one else in building 6. He was the only one that had moved into this building. And so he kept hearing noises at night, not in the daytime. The workers are moving around and stuff, and they were doing some touch-ups or whatever, finishing up on the drywalls. I know how that goes. We do a lot of construction security. It's how we make our money. But he was telling me about it, and he was telling me that there There was a lot of construction going on just around there, but not really so much his building. His building, as far as he knew, was finished. And but nobody else had moved in. He was living on the bottom floor, and he was outside smoking a cigarette and talking to his girlfriend. And he hears like a shuffling of feet up in the balcony above him. Now, this wouldn't be the apartment above him. This would be the apartment, like where he lived. He would walk past the apartment below this one, and then to the next apartment. That's where he lived. So he was out there smoking a cigarette and talking, and they had like a little wooded area, whatever, where there were benches and stuff, and he could go outside and sit, but he just was walking around. He said he's one of those restless people who doesn't just go and sit around. He's just, I got to be moving, you know. He's like, and I look up and I see this like shadowy looking thing on the balcony, and I'm thinking, first he said he thought it was like a chair with like so anyway, he said it was like a chair with like he thought was a blanket over it, and then he was like, what is that? And so he was like, that's weird. And so he kept staring at it, and so he told his girlfriend, I'm gonna go back inside, I'm gonna get a flashlight, because there's something there, it's really weird. And so, and this actually was, I don't know if it was a mistake, but maybe he should have just ignored this, but he went back inside, and when he came back out, that thing was gone, so he knew it wasn't a blanket, and he thought, that's weird. So that was the first time that he encountered this, whatever it was. So a few days later, he decided to be nosy, you know, and just because he kept hearing stuff when he would go out to smoke a cigarette, he kept hearing stuff, and he kept coming from that balcony. He told one of the foremen and the superintendent that was doing the construction, but they were on the other side of the property already, finishing up buildings 9, 10, 11. He said, is there anything going on in building 6? They said, no, nothing's going on in building 6. And he said one of them kind of looked over at him and said something, but he didn't understand what he was saying. He said it in Spanish. And he said he was talking to this Cuban guy, and the guy told him, yeah, there is something there. And he goes, what do you mean? And he goes, well, there's something not right there. There's something bad over there in that building. We had problems. He said one of our guys got hurt. One of their guys actually cut their hand on a saw, had to go to the hospital. Another guy dropped a hammer on his foot, knocked his toenail off. A few things happened. It was very weird. Now, what he was told, and I don't know if this is true, and he can't really verify this, but one of the guys was working there, was driving, when they were clearing the land, fell out of one of the machines and then later died in the hospital. Now, you know, a lot of weird stuff happens. I mean, they say blood and emotions saturate the environment. I don't know if that was what led to this, because after that, there was all kinds of problems and in that particular spot. Well, he wakes up one night to something standing in his room, and he's looking at it, and he said when he opened his eyes and he stared at it, it was really tall, it rushed over to his bedside and began to choke him. And he eventually he said he could feel arms, like wrists, like hands, whatever, and it was choking him, and he was like grabbing on it, trying to get it off him. And he's like, I gotta get this off me now. So he starts praying and screaming, and finally the thing lets go. And then it just, poof, it's gone. And he sits up, and he's like, okay, this is messed up, you know? His girlfriend worked at night. That's why he was always out there talking to her. And so they had different schedules. He was a swing shift worker. And so he called her up, and he stayed on the phone with her all night. And he said he was, you know, the next day he comes home that night, whatever, and this would have been about a week and a half after the original incident. He says he comes home, and he decides to just walk around the outside area, just kind of looking, you know, and he goes, you know what, I'm going to go and check that apartment out. He goes up in there, okay? Nobody's living there in this building still. They haven't rented anything out yet. Okay, in that building. Now, it was filling up on the other side, and he said that, yeah, there were people coming, you know, there were people, but on his part of building 6, it was divided into 2 sections. There was nobody. Now, there were people on the other side of building 6, but not on his side. And so he goes upstairs, the door is opened, and he starts to walk in there, and he immediately looks to his right, and in the moonlight, he can see this shadow-looking thing in the corner of the room. And he said it was hunched down, but when he turned at a certain angle, he could see through the light of the not only was the light, there was a light post, whatever, but he said moonlight was coming right in. He said the face looked like a disfigured troll. That's the best way he could describe it. And he said, I don't want to sit here and say it was, you know, like this super dramatic thing, because it didn't come out, it didn't chase me, anything like that. At that point, it was just there. And he's like, so I turned around and I walked back out slowly and closed the door. And he goes, and I called the police. And I said, there's a homeless person living in this building. And they're like, how do you know? He's like, well, I saw it on the balcony. He didn't tell me when inside. The police come. This is a suburb of Chicago, right? This isn't Chicago proper. This is a suburb, you know. So police come and they go in and they do an investigation. They come back out and he goes outside. He talks to them and they're, you the one to call? Yeah. There's nobody there. Nothing in there. He's like, we did notice though that there was what appeared to be animal poop in the back bedroom. Couldn't explain that. Maybe an animal got in there because maybe it's an animal. Maybe that's what you're seeing. They said it was large, so it was probably a bigger dog. You know, maybe he's like, yeah, maybe there's a homeless person that was staying in there and that's what you saw. When they asked for a description of the guy, he said maybe it was a mistake. Martis, this cat is so mischievous. Anyways, he said, you know, maybe it was a mistake, you know, going in there, whatever. I said, yeah, it probably was, because stuff got worse. So he had to explain to him what he saw, and he made the mistake of telling them what it looked like. And they were like, okay, so you saw an orc from Lord of the Rings. And that's what this cop told him. Cops can be very smarmy, smart mouth, you know. Not all of them, but some of them. I've dealt with some that are. You know, some of them are good people, you know, but some of them just like to razz you because they just don't want to deal with stuff, you know. And so this guy told him, you know, he goes, you basically saw an orc from Lord of the Rings. And he says, no, it didn't. What's going on? I don't know if he might have ran out. So I just, you know, I was really taken aback of his description of it. He said it had a long pointy nose, and I've heard that before. Well, it scared the mess out of him. So one day when he was walking outside and it was broad daylight, he hears this shuffling of feet. He looks up and for a second he sees something going into the apartment from the balcony. He goes, okay, you know, this is broad daylight. I saw this black cloaked thing go into the apartment. There was no one there. It was like 6, 7 o'clock at night, and it was in the late spring, whatever, like it is now. It was last year, I believe this one happened, or maybe the year before. I think it was 2020. Okay, we're in 22. Time just goes and goes and goes. But so it would have been about 2 years ago. He said he went back inside, and he called his girlfriend, and she came over. And he says, I went in there the other night, and I saw this thing, you know, I don't know how to describe it. And she's like, really, John, I should, you know, we're calling him John. She's like, you saw this thing, you know, and you keep saying this, you know, whatever. He goes, well, I saw this. So she had to get ready to go to work. So when she was getting ready to leave his place, she didn't tell him, unbeknownst to him. She said, I'm gonna go check it out. But she sneaks up there. She goes to open the door. And this, whatever it was, came running toward her from across the room. She said it was like a black blur, and literally grabbed her smock by the shed. She wears a smock, she's a nurse. Goes to grab her by her arm and pull her into the apartment. And she was terrified, and she said that it smelled like rotting flesh, and that it was some sort of sulfuride type smell, you know, and it terrified her. And it scared her so bad, like over the next 2 weeks, she said that she would brush her hair was coming out. She was having nightmares. And she thinks this thing like attached itself to her. What he told, because I didn't speak to her, but what he told me was he believed that this thing was something spiritual that could manifest as physical, because ultimately he was outside and he was coming up the steps from that other side one night. And this was already like, I think he said about a month or two after. And there were people living that were moving in or whatever. And nobody had rented that apartment yet. He said that he saw some people moving in. And then next thing you know, they're not there. So he doesn't know if they just went in there and they were there for like a week or what. So he asked the apartment manager about it. And she said, yeah, there's some things that need to be done with that apartment. And he's like what? And she's like, well, just some things. And she didn't get into it. She was very evasive. And he had complained about it before. And he was like, hadn't really told them that he saw a demonic troll entity, whatever it was. But who would? I mean, you're going to go in there and tell your apartment manager, yeah, I saw, the pale orc from the Lord of the Rings. And your apartment manager's going to be like, what apartment is this? Why are you in there? Why are you up there? What are you doing up there? You know, I just like to go up there and take my shoes off and eat my chicken nuggets on the patio. And she's not going to understand why. So you're not going to have a good excuse to be up there. So she's like, why were you up there? Or whatever. So that's going to be a problem, obviously. So he didn't give her the full 411. So he says, look, I know there's something wrong with that apartment. So he tells her what he saw. And he said her face, like the blood drained from her face, and it was like ashen white. And she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, one of the leasers, one of the people that worked for her, had gone in there to show that apartment, and they saw something scuttle, what she said, scuttle into the freaking closet. And they bolted. So, you tell me. And why that particular apartment, that it decided to take up resident there? Was it just needing a place to stay? And it just decided that I want to stay in this apartment. It wasn't apartment 666 or anything. It was like 612 or something. It wasn't nothing magical. I mean, I looked at it from every angle. I was like, why that apartment? You know, it's just weird. Is it the luck of the draw? That, you know, something is haunted or messed up or something decides to just inhabit it? Is that the place where the guy was killed? Did it put off I don't think it was him, but I think it could have been an energy there, or was it that thing that caused it? Here's a scenario. What if the guy that was using the earth mover disturbed a mound that belonged to some sort of entity? What if it belonged to that creature? And then wackiness ensues, and poor John has to deal with it because there it is. It's just a thought. I'm not saying this is what I believe. I'm just saying if you go by books, those are the things with pictures sometimes people look at. Every now and then people will read. People under the age of 30, I know they don't read books, but they should because they're ignorant as hell. But yeah, I'm just saying, what if? Could be. I mean, I've read stories, reports, and I've read lots of books and a lot of lore, a lot of legends. And isn't that kind of what happens? You know, I know in Britain they have fairy mounds. You be real careful where you build. I know that the Australians have it too. In particular, the natives. They don't believe you should build in certain spots. So, I mean, you know, could that be what's going on? I don't know. So the guy's walking up the steps and he looks up and he sees this thing right there on the balcony. And he hears it hissing, like making a hissing noise like a snake, mixed with like a cat. And he says, dude, I was so done. He goes, I went to the apartment manager and I'm like, I want to get out. I'm going to break my lease. I'll pay the reletting fee, whatever. I don't want to live in this building. But she said, whoa. She said, I understand you have a demon in that building. What I am willing to do is charge you the full amount of the reletting fee then you can leave. I'm just kidding. That's not what happened. He's like, oh, you're so merciful. Thank you very much. No, what happened was she said, okay, look, before you leave the complex, why don't we just move you to another apartment in another building? And he said he liked being able to go right outside and just being right there by the little dog run and all that, but it didn't work out. So he had to move to another building. And I asked him, I said, were there any more problems? He said, no. He says, I don't go over there. I don't, if there is something going on, I don't know. I don't care. Because I don't check. None of my problem. Not my problem. His girlfriend had a bunch of problems. A ton of problems. She thinks that this thing tried to attach itself to her. And now, here's where things get kind of weird. Like, people were seeing this thing as like a physical creature, and there was some sort of feces that was left in the back bedroom of this apartment. Was that a coincidence? Did a large dog go in there and use the bathroom while this thing was living there? This thing was able to move into a closet. We don't know because they didn't stick around. We don't know if did it sneak out before the cops came? Like, was it physical? Was it metaphysical? That's the question that I asked, and I was just puzzled by that. It's like, what are we dealing with here? What I think we're dealing with is entities that they're spiritual entities that can manifest as physical beings. I really believe that's what we're dealing with. And the description I got from him, it was demonic. Hey, what's up? Come on. Come on. Oh, God. Come on. Panther. What are you doing? Hey, Anthony, you want to grab Panzer? He just jumped up here.
Come on, Bubba. Come on, Fat.
Put him on the camera. Let him say hi real quick. Look at that. He's so heavy. Look how big he is. Look at how big our cat has. His dad was a big boy. His dad was a big old mean tomcat. What are you doing, buddy? I'm trying to tell stories. You over here. Hey, everybody. Here you go, sweet boy. Go ahead. Take it. He's a good boy. That's a good boy. Oh, I strained my back last night, folks. And I'll tell you that story in a minute. Oh. Strained me picking up that cat. Last night I was doing curls at Big Tex, and I'm gonna call you out on this, Mushu. And you know, you're doing concentration curls, and I had them one on either side. To take it is on the way down. I said, take it, because the way that thing is, if you go too far down, you hurt your elbow. So Tony decides that he's just not going to pay attention when I say, hey, take it. So he just let me, when Anthony grabbed the other side, all the weight went to this arm. And so I just had one arm lifting it, and Anthony was like laying it down. And so this arm was carrying everything else. And so all the way from my elbow up into my bicep, up into my shoulder, all the way into my back. And my upper back is completely strained. So thank my co-host Mushu for that. Everybody send him a big thank you. There you go. And also thank him for not participating in anything. I'm sure he's probably not even in the chat tonight. But in his defense, he has a lot of video games to play. So, he's a busy guy. He's got to play video games. If you had as many video games to play as he does, you'd understand. So y'all send him a big fat finger from me. Okay. Good kid. Just tried to hurt me last night. Thank you for saying that, Scorp. So he says, hey, everyone, let's keep supporting us and hit the like button, please. I need my glasses. If you have a comment that you want read aloud, enter whatever you can in the super chat, and Wolf will try to read that. best way to get your comment seen or heard, yeah, is to put a donation on there. Or like I said, you don't have to, but it really helps. Thank you for putting that on there, Scorp. Hit the like button at least. Subscribe if you aren't already, which I don't think you can get on here if you haven't subscribed. So if you're in the chat, you've already subscribed. Yeah, good job, Mushu. Thank you, Holly, for giving him props. Curtis, Mushu the slacker. And D says Mushu on top of his game as usual. Yeah, sure. What was his excuse? He blamed Anthony today when he told my wife about it. Like, I was in the restroom, I come out and I hear him complaining about it. Like how Anthony didn't tell him, or I don't know. He blamed Anthony. He like some sort of mental gymnastics, and somehow it became Anthony's fault that he caused this, you know, I don't want to call it an injury. Because I'm not injured. I'm pretty resilient. I think what it is a bicep strain, and then it kind of goes up and then it kind of comes back down, you know, and if somebody's there to spot you, you would expect them to do it. Yes, Curtis, he has brought shame to the family. So anyway, back to the story. This guy, he ended up like not having any more problems. There was no more choking in the middle of the night, nothing like that. But his girlfriend did have problems, and she did, and it went on for like a couple months. There were some crazy things that happened, not in his apartment, but at her apartment, where she lived was nowhere close to that. It was a completely different place. And I think he said that she lived 3 or 4 miles down the road or whatever. So there's no reason why this should have gone on at her, and if it was a physical creature. A couple things that happened. One, she was getting out of the shower and something shoved her, like a force, shoved her, and it was right on her rib cage, and it looked like she had like handprints on, like from this thing that pushed her. It terrified her. She was terrified, and then she thought she saw something in the mirror. And then she got her leg pulled in the middle of the night. Her sister had come to visit from from Indiana or something. And she was laying in the bed and it pulled her foot. Sister sits up in the middle of the night and sees something standing there. So yeah, that's that story. That's a creepy story, and I don't know what that is. But you tell me. Moving on. It's 8:30. So we have another one. I have this one. There's a couple of Dogman stories, but I'll tell you. These are weird, okay? And if you guys watched Friday's show, we told a couple Dogman stories on there pretty long. On the last Friday's show, it actually came out on Saturday. We're like a day late on the last, because we've been so busy, slammed with work. It's hard to get, and I can't justify taking off from work for the show because my job actually supports the show. So that's how that works. But anyways, work was responsible. We had responsibility on Friday, so we couldn't drop it till Saturday. So here we are on Wednesday when we should have dropped the show on Tuesday. So I understand that we're falling behind here. We're like a day late on everything, but there's a reason for that, and the reason is because of work. So. If you listen to the show on Friday, we told a couple of Dogman stories. I think we're going to have 3 or 4 of them on this coming Friday's show. So this coming Friday, tune in. We'll try to make sure we drop this on Friday. We're going to get it edited probably by tomorrow and get it on there and get it ready to go and get it dropped Friday. And you'll get some more Dogman stories. Now, this one in particular was disturbing to me because I've covered a case that was outside of my hometown where these people were having poltergeist-like activity in their house, and then there was a werewolf Dogman type. Martis, get down. Martis is going crazy, dude. Did you give him catnip or something, man? Like, Panzer's he's just chilling, but Martis is just going, he's flipping out, dude. Does he want to be on the show? Bring him over here. We'll put him on the show. So anyway, we had this one particular story that happened near Vernon, Texas. I'm trying to remember where the other one was. There were 2 of them, and they're right here in Texas. What's he doing?
Flipping around like a...
Come here.
Whatever.
What are you doing? What are you acting? What are you playing at here? Look at it. Say hi. Say hi, you goofy cat. Look at that. Look at them eyes. Looks like a panther. Our cats are huge. They work out with us. We go to the gym. I think he benches like 245 or something. He's doing good. The other one, I think Panzer, I think he's up to like 315. He's having a hard time with his diet. But anyway, they're doing good. Our puppies are doing good. They're pumping iron. You know, they're in here in the office, like having a ball, whatever. Crazy. And when they get together, they're just nuts. So one of the things that I was told about this particular Dogman was it is attached to a haunting. And it's very similar to a story I told on Mr. C's channel. And what happened was there was a child that was having a creature that was appearing in the window, and it would talk to him. And the child told us it didn't speak to him with its mouth. Like it was the words that he was saying, everything was appearing in his head, which would say that there's some kind of telepathy going on here. This was very similar. So this didn't happen to a littler kid. It happened to a teenager, and it was a girl, and she was like 13 or I think 14 years old. And she said that it had been happening since she was 12. She was 14 going on 15. She was told by this particular Dogman not to tell her parents, and it would show up at the foot of her bed. Like literally, she'd be asleep, and she would feel her bed shake, or sometimes her whole body would vibrate, and she would wake up and she'd be like, "Well, what the heck is going on?" You know? And she said I would just sit bolt upright, and there would be this thing right there at the foot of the bed. She described it almost like a cartoon, the way it just looked. She said the head was overly large, and there was like these big muscular upper body, and it had big thick muscles on its arms, but it had really skinny thighs and then bigger lower legs, but then it went back into like a dog-like legs, you know, the hawks, you know, that people talk about. So anyways, this creature would appear at the foot of her bed, and it would tell her things, like stuff about the future. Like, you know, she told her, your sister's going to get really sick. She's going to be in the hospital. And she told her that her mother was going to get cancer, which she did. Her mother is in remission, thank God. But she told this creature, which looked like a werewolf, told her all kinds of interesting facts that came true or that were happening in her life. Told her that her dad was having an affair. That turned out to be true. The dad moved out. She said that she got a very ill feeling from it. Literally, like after it would leave, she said the room would smell like rotten eggs, which I attribute to a sulfur smell. And she said that this thing would disappear and it would reappear, you know, and it would only come when she was alone. She said sometimes she would feel like a gust of wind. It would be hot or cold, and she thinks that it was this entity. But it took the form of a giant werewolf or wolf-headed man. And it started coming up to the window when her and a couple of friends over, and they were playing Chinese checkers. And she said we were playing this game, a board game, and she said they'd come up to the window, and me and my friends saw it like walk by the window, and my friends screamed. And of course, the mom and dad were called, and then they came over, but then the friend decided to stay. And then the next day she was like, "Hey man, I'm not going to be able to stay over here anymore. I can't come back." And that thing was too creepy. It was black with a grayish face and chest. And she said it almost looked cartoonish. That's the only way she could describe it. It had overly sized paws that were feet, but they were kind of not feet. Stereotypical werewolf dogman looking creature. She was young. She didn't see the movie Howling, had not seen dog soldiers, anything like that. When I was talking to her mom, she didn't have any kind of, never seen anything like that. So she only knew like what's it called, the Underworld movies, and she'd seen what is that one with the goofy vampire that looks like he's been bedazzled or whatever. What's it called? What are those vampires called? What's that movie called? It's like a love story or something. Anyway, there's like a bunch of. No, that's not it. I'm talking about that one with the goofy guy that was in the lighthouse and tried to kill the other guy. Name was Edward or something. Anyways, it doesn't matter. He was a vampire and he was all sparkly and stuff. Anyway, she had seen those movies. Okay, I don't even know what they're called. If somebody could put it on here and tell me what it's called, it'd be great. But anyway, that Twilight. There you go. Thank you, Curtis. Anyway, it was called Twilight. And so she had seen that. And she said the wolves on there did not look anything like this thing. She said it kind of looked like the Underworld, but not really. She didn't have to really compare it to, and I didn't want to lead her. So I told her mother, I said, look up Van Helsing, ask if it looked like that. She said no. I was like, what was it Scooby-Doo? You know, I was like trying to reach for it. I was like, what does this look like? Is it a cartoon dog? Was it Droopy? Was it, hey, bub, I'm here to tell the teacher and tell you about what's going to happen. Your dad's having an affair, bub. He's not a good guy. Okay. I don't think he'd be a very scary dogman, but he is a dogman technically. Him and Goofy are dogmen. They stand upright and they are dogs, and they're anthropomorphic dogs. But you know, not making fun of you and your story. What I'm saying though, I was grasping for what it looked like, and I still am not real sure. I even talked to Barton. Barton has this, you know, because he had in his book a kid in humanoids. It was under the bed, and they were playing hide and seek, and there was like this, you know, what looked like the big bad wolf came in, I think wearing like a suit. You know, it was just a weird encounter. This thing didn't wear clothes, but it was appearing to her, and it started to come into the house. And she said it was like about a month before it actually started coming into the house and appearing at the foot of her bed. And it would always try to tell her to not be afraid, but she was terrified. And then this thing would tell her things she didn't want to know, she didn't want to hear, and she was just like, and it would make her cry. It took her a little while. She had an aunt that lived there temporarily, and the aunt encouraged her to tell her mother, and because she had told the aunt, she felt like she could tell the aunt but not the mom. Finally, the mom reached out and said, hey, you know, this is what happened, you know, this is a story, and I was told by somebody, hey, you need to talk to these people. And so that's how we ended up communicating. So back and forth, there was other things going on. Like literally they had like an ice machine just explode from the refrigerator, like just boom, like it was making ice. And how does it do that? The repair guy didn't know how the heck it could happen. How does this happen? We don't know. He kept saying that they had to have done something to it. They said, nope. Refrigerator opened up one day. Some stuff fell out. Plates. Literally the younger sister, who wasn't really affected by it, but saw this happen. Her and her little brother were eating cereal one morning, and plates came out of the shelf and onto the floor. Mother got mad and was like, oh, y'all are playing around, blah, blah, blah. No, it wasn't us. It was this something, some kind of ghost. But she was convinced that it was this werewolf-looking creature. Now, here's an interesting thing. Her dad, put my glasses back on so I can read the comments. Her dad goes to live in an apartment. He got booted out. And from what I was told by the mother's very angry at him, doesn't like him, so whatever. Guy sounds like a jerk, but I don't know him. He was very casually just tossed his family aside type of guy for a girl that was 20 years younger than him, so I don't really feel much for this dude. But he was mentally abusive, if not physically, and he was very not nice. And so one night, he had to call the police because he thought there was an intruder in his apartment, and something beat the heck out of him. Threw him all over his apartment. And it was dark in his apartment. He couldn't turn a light on. He kept trying to get to a light, and he could not get to the light. And he thought that maybe his ex-wife had sent someone to rough him up. But then he realized that this person was like 7.5 feet tall. And from what he could feel, the thing had fur on it with big ears that stood straight up and a snout. It didn't bite him, but it beat him up, like punched him, slammed his head into the wall, threw him into a desk, broke his arm, and knocked his hip out of socket. So my thought was, and I asked, I didn't communicate with the young lady, but I communicated with her mother, and I said, let me ask you a question. Is it possible that your daughter manifested this? She's like, my daughter's had no interest in werewolves or monsters or demons or ghosts or anything like that. She's just a normal teenager. Because oftentimes poltergeist activity, if you know anything about this, and then people that are in the know about ghosts, you will know. Sometimes poltergeist activity, there's teenagers involved, boys and girls, typically girls, but it happens with boys too. And a lot of parapsychologists believe that it has to do with the hormonal changes and the emotion and all the other blah, 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 blah. You could call it anything you want. But this thing sounded like a demon to me. And it was either attached to her or it had something to do with her and her feelings and her anger toward her dad. And I asked the mother, and she got offended. And I was like, and I wasn't trying to offend you. I wasn't. But I had to ask the question. It was a tough question. And I said, do you dabble in the occult? She says, no, absolutely not. I was like, what I mean by that is it's a broad spectrum. What I meant by that was, do you think maybe you could have been the cause of it? She said, no. I said, and you didn't go to someone and say, hey, I don't like this guy. Can you do something? She got offended. I wasn't trying to be offensive. I had to ask that question. She said, no. I said, let me explain to you. A bruja can summon something. But typically, it's a cadejo, not an hombre lobo. The hombre lobo is not something you can summon in Mexican culture. But the cadejo is, depending upon what type of area you're from, Mexico, you can get them to do things like that. I had somebody tell me the other day, a curandera cursed them, and I said, well, curandera is a healer. So once they go into cursing you, they're no longer a curandera. They're a bruja. And it's brujos too, which is a man, like a warlock. But I asked her that question. She said she didn't believe that's, and she said, I don't think it had anything to do with me and my daughter. I think this thing was protective of my daughter. My daughter was very angry at her dad, so it reacted. If that's the direction we're taking. And I said, that's possible. So you at home, make up your own minds, make up your own decisions, and tell me what you think. I'm not real sure if it was last Friday's episode. I think it was that we talked about the last Starfighter born. He said, I see you on there. You're the one that's uncle is a werewolf from Kerrville, as you claim. That sounds absolutely silly unless you are like me and you know that you've gotten reports from there. And one of the stories, I think, if it wasn't told on last Friday's show, correct me if I'm wrong, it might be this Friday's show, like I said, last Saturday. Then it might be this Friday. But either way, there was some guys in a car that were coming back from work and they were heading back to San Antonio, and their car got hit by, I say their car got hit, I think the thing ran out in front of them. I think it did it on purpose. I think it tried to get hit. The guy that was in the passenger seat that told me, he's like, do you really think that's what happened? I was like, yeah, I do. I absolutely do think that that's what happened. I think they got stranded there and that thing terrorized them. And it could have gotten worse if it hadn't gotten scared away by traffic. I think it could have gotten worse. So you gotta really look at these cases as in a case by case mode, and you gotta wonder what's going on. Because there's a lot of people out there who are podcasting now. It seems like every day I wake up, every day it feels like I'm waking up and there's another person. I'm starting a podcast. There's a couple people that I actually encourage to do that. Lyle Blackburn. And I think, I don't know, maybe Ryan Edwards or something. I don't know. They're authors, but I thought they're really good at what they do. Why not have a podcast? Other people, like my friend David Weatherly said, just because you can doesn't mean you should. There's a lot of people doing this, talking about stories and stuff, and not to be rude, but there's other fields out there. Do the research. It takes a lot of time. People say, hey, how hard is it? I said, it's very hard. It's very, very hard. You got to do it. It takes time. You can't just stumble into the studio and just have, I'm just going to do a show. What are you going to talk about? I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get there. Try to do things on the fly. Yeah, I noticed. Somebody asked me recently, they were like, would you be willing to come onto my show? And I'm not a snob about that. Everybody out there knows that I don't do a lot of shows. I don't have time to do a lot of other people's shows. I did like 9 other shows like in October. It's like to kill me. And now this coming October, I got friends coming in, and then I got my brother wants to go to this concert. I got all kinds of stuff going on in October. I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to do. And I'm not like Ron Burgundy over here. I'm kind of a big deal. I really, I'm not saying that, okay? But I do get invited to do a lot of stuff, and I can't go. I can't go to these conferences. I can't go to these shows. And so people are just kind of like, okay, Josh Turner's got a lot of stuff going on. He's a man of enterprise. But I try to do what I can. So this guy asked me to come on the show, and when I went back and I listened to the show, I was just like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, you seem like a nice person. But I mean, I really, I think sometimes it's just not in your best interest. I mean, it's just not. And so I had this person go and tell people in a group that, Josh Turner, he thinks he's too big to be on my show, blah, 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 blah. It's not going to waste my time. Because it's, there's good and not good, and yours is not good. And I'm not trying to be ugly or rude to anybody. But you got to pick and choose, what you're going to, so that's the case. And so if this person says anything, what trying to be ugly or rude. I just got a lot going on, and I just don't have time. And I don't know you. I am going to be on a show. I'm going to be recording. I don't know when we're going to, on Texas Back Porch. Oh gosh, I think it's June 20th. I tentatively agreed to that one, and then there was another one. There was a documentary that I agreed to, a couple of them that I tentatively agreed to do. I want to get this wrong, but I'm going to be doing this. I'm trying to remember their name. Jill, I think it's Jill. Jill Remmenschneider. I agreed to something there. It's a documentary called A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed that drops 5:31. I would love to book on a spot on your podcast. Okay, she wants to come on my podcast. And then there's a sequel we're filming. Okay. That's okay. All right. Thought I was having to go there. But I did agree to go on Texas Back Porch. Those guys, I met them at the, and they knew who I was, which was cool. And I met them at the conference in Mineola, which is the only Bigfoot conference I've ever attended. And a lot of people knew me there, which was really cool. The people already, you had some audience there that was the people that were listeners. But anyway, you know, there's always gonna be people talking trash. There's this one guy who just loves to pop up all the time and troll me in my comments, you know, and loves to bring up the other guy and he gave you your start. Yeah. Well, my dad, you know, helped contribute to creating me too. Doesn't mean I like him. Doesn't mean I'm obligated to like him or pay attention to him. Because neither one of them are good people. So why would I, you know, give him any, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, there's people that gave me a job at one time and turned out to be real not good people. Thank you for giving me a paycheck, sir. Now forever beholden to you. It's not how it works. You know, there's all these people that are just walking around right now through life. We got about 3 minutes and then we're going to make this phone call, folks. They're walking around through life like zombies. And I'm not joking. I mean, they're like, and they think they're free. Well, I could keep my cat up here at the office and go, he's free. He's free to go in that corner. He's free to go in that corner. He can go around anywhere until I tell him not to. And they think that's freedom. You put a fish in a tank and he's like, I'm free. I'm free to go anywhere in this aquarium. In this little 75-gallon aquarium. That's as far as I'm able to go, as far as I can until I hit the glass. That's what we're doing now. But that's not freedom. That's limited. And that's what's happening all over. And these people, they'll argue with me till the cows come home because they don't like my opinion or where I'm coming from. And I tell them, there's a lot of common sense that's lacking. I agreed with someone the other day about maybe there should be stricter rules, but not, we don't need to be giving up all our freedom. And this person just lost it. Well, we gotta get, and in other words, you gotta give the government every single ounce, right? And let me tell you something about Facebook. Facebook's great, aren't they? I approved 165 requests to join Paranormal Round Table group. Yesterday and the day before, we had all 175 altogether. We were at 7.8 thousand. And guess where we're at today, folks? 7.8 thousand. We should be at 8,000 people right now. Because we were already at 7.8 and some change. That should have put us at 8,000. I did the math. It's not hard. 175 plus 27 or whatever it is. And you're going like, who does the math for this? Is it Common Core math that they're using? I don't know, because they're not getting in. They took away my ability to look at the posts. I can't even see the posts on the group to approve or not approve. I had to get my wife to do it. So that's their little way of attacking you now and, you know, doing whatever because they don't like you. The enemy. I hate you, Facebook. I hate you. I despise you. You are, to me right now, a necessary evil. I think you're trash. I think your platform is trash. I think you're garbage. I think that's where you belong, in the garbage bin with your Android-looking. I mean, can anybody look weirder than that guy? Than Zuckerberg? Can you look at that guy? They say he looks like Data. I was like, Data looks normal walking down the street compared to that guy. That guy's like, he's sitting before Congress. Like you're just like, this is the weirdest looking guy. Is he a person? An android? What is he? I think he's AI. People asked me the other day, somebody said in the group, they said, hey, do you have any stories about artificial intelligence? Yes, I do. Look at him. He's right there. That's Data's brother. Terrible. Fake book. He stole it. You know that, right? He stole it. And then on top of that, we lose what I thought was great, MySpace. You could wallpaper it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, why is everybody going to this other Facebook, you know? And I'm not going to lie, ladies, there was mostly women going on there. So all the men followed. They're like, hey, all the women are on Facebook. And so all my friends just ran over there to be with all the women. And they're like, look, let's go to Facebook. It's not as fun. It's not as cool. It's not as good. It doesn't run. It's just, it's really garbage, but everybody's doing it. So we better go do it. That's what they did. I was one of the holdouts. I didn't come till like a couple years after I had already been there, and I was like, well, I guess I better go. My whole family's on there and all my friends. Bunch of sellouts. Nirad says FB is control. Use it to siphon people over to a Discord or something. Zuck is like a weird bug-eyed Mothman. Absolutely, he's weird. He's a weirdo. But yeah, they are, it's just, you know, and now Texas passed this law to where if they try to censor you, then you can sue them. So if you're from Texas and you're getting bans, you need to get on it because they're not supposed to do that. And then somebody said, oh, as soon as you look it up, there's an article about the Supreme Court blocking. No, they're petitioning the Supreme Court to block it. They were like, we want our rights taken away. You're not, why is Texas trying to fight for their rights? You're bad. Bad guys, evil. Why are y'all always rocking the boat and trying to get more freedom? Texas sucks. Hate Texas, man. The government's good. Can't you see that the government is trying to do everything to help us? Texas doesn't appreciate all the oppression that we get. If we sit back and don't work, they might feed us some oatmeal once a week. What? What is your problem, Texas? Come on. Idiots. Anyways. Yes, Mr. Senator. Yes. That's what you look like. People asking him questions and they're How did you create Facebook? I stole it from my roommate there on Square. That's what he did. And then everybody's like, Facebook's great because everybody's doing it, so it's great. Let's all go and do it. Love me some Facebook. It's awesome. You don't get to do anything. There's no real freedom on there. And you don't get to like make your own page or anything, but it's great because people are there on it. And Instagram too. It's like, oh, Instagram. Yay. Pictures. And more pictures. And women telling you to go check out their private pages. Nauseating. So, let's see how I can do this. We have to use the phone.
Hello?
Hey, Cam, are you busy?
I'm over here on a property with the manager.
Okay, well, give me a call when you get a chance, all right? Because I'm going to have you on the show.
All right.
Okay? You don't have Facebook anymore?
Do I have any what?
You don't have any... You're live, so, you know, but I'm saying, do you have Facebook anymore?
Yeah.
You do? Because I just looked. I couldn't find you. I know you were mad.
Oh, no, it's under
Okay, yeah.
Under Diane.
Text it to me.
All right.
All right, and when you get a chance, call me right back. All right, bye.
All right, bye.
Okay. I'm going to have her come on the show, and she's going to tell you some really creepy stuff. It's pretty crazy. Christian Aradano says liberals stop coming to Texas. This is Austin. Okay, they're going to be here. Now, here's my thing, folks. Before we get all in political, I'm not going to get political here. I had a lot of friends that were liberal. And in fact, being liberal by the term itself is being liberal the liberals that I dealt with back in the 90s up into the mid to late 2000s, they were always just like, hey man, you do you and I'll do me, and I'm just going to smoke and we're just going to live. And I had no problem with those people. That was the kind of liberal that I could deal with. I wasn't really a liberal, but I was kind of like, just live and let you just do you do me. Now, if you mess with me, it never ends. That's a different type of thing, you know, but you don't mess with me, you don't step on me and my toes, and I don't have a problem with you. In the late 2000s, something changed. We started getting these militant people going by the name of liberal, and that is not what these people are. They are absolutely communist. You can call yourself liberal, you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself, whatever. Bubblish fish eye late for dinner, I don't care, but you are a communist. Don't say you're not, because that's what you are. I mean, there's people walking around Austin with hammer and sickle backpacks. You think I'm kidding? Some of them call themselves anarchists. You're not. You're just a communist. Eric Garcia, thank you for that donation. We'll see. You watch. This is preliminaries, dude. These people are crazy. There's a lot of homeless people here, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we should have that." I mean, just so they can cause a lot of problems. And yeah, see, Titan says the concept of liberal has been hijacked. It has been. True liberals, I don't have a problem with. James Santos, exactly. Live and let live, but don't tell me how to live. Last Starfighter, yep. California is so beautiful. Best ocean, mountain scenery. It's people who make it bad. That's right. Let me tell you something. California is probably, in my opinion, it's got everything. It's the most beautiful state in the union. I love Texas, and I think there's a lot of beauty in Texas. There's a lot. I've shown my wife some of the most beautiful places in Texas. She's just like, can't believe it. She grew up in California. She just thought, man, Texas is a big old desert, you know. But she stayed in San Antonio for a while, so she saw some of it. But I took her to some of the plains. We've driven through the desert. We've driven through the hill country. We've driven all through the big thicket of East Texas. She's seen it. She's like, this is amazing. It's a beautiful state. But let me tell you something. I don't think it holds a candle to California's beauty. I mean, that ocean, that Pacific Coast Drive, it's beautiful, dude. I mean, it's just nothing like it. But the people absolutely destroy it. Jennifer says the far left and the far right are equally toxic. What we need is middle ground. Yes, thank you. I got into an argument with somebody on the right the other day, and they accused me of being. They're like, "You want people to just go around and smoke dope? That's crazy." I never said that. I said it was for legalization. What do I give a crap if you smoke? I don't care if you smoke. What does that matter to me? I don't smoke it. And like, well, if you don't smoke it, why would you be for legalization? I was like, you can drink a fifth of Jack and get liquored up and drive your car and kill someone, or go into and rob a liquor store, or go crazy into a bar. I've seen what liquor does to people in bars. Absolutely insane. Violent. I mean, just the most violent acts known to man done on alcohol. Doesn't really happen on marijuana. I don't see people smoking a joint and then going crazy and being like, you know what, man? That's it. Where's my gat? I'm going to go out there and rob that liquor store, yo. I'm done, man. I'm ready. I'm putting this game controller down. Let's do this, man. I'm going to go down to the club and pick a fight. I'm going to grab some guy's girlfriend and get punched and then shoot him. Because I smoked the reefer. What happens when you smoke pot? You go out and you lay around. You sit, you watch TV. You stay in your house. And I mean, that's what it seems like. It says there are scorpions and wolf spiders everywhere in Texas. Wolf spiders won't hurt you. Wolf spiders are actually good. They'll kill the bad stuff. Scorpions, I don't really see that many. I mean, I've seen a few. Steve says, you've obviously never seen Reaper Madness. No, I have. I have seen Reaper Madness. No, you're a dope fiend. Your life may depend on it. Yeah. Right. You smoke the reefer bud and you go crazy. It's like Grand Theft Auto on steroids. You will yank people out of their cars, and you will drive into a building, jump out as the police are chasing you, and you will enter into multiple gun battles until you can find another car to get away because of the reefer bud. And then Texas is like, you can't gamble. Don't gamble. Go all the states around Texas and gamble. Don't you dare gamble here. Gambling is the devil. Mama said gambling is the devil. Okay. There's a lot of just silliness. So I got accused of being a leftist, which I am not. I don't label myself as anything. Okay, Anthony, I'm going to need your expertise here. Hold on, folks. We're going to make this phone call, and we're going to let her tell you some crazy, weird, wild stuff. This is not letting me... What the heck is that? Oh, my gosh. So anyways...
Let's not comment on that.
Yeah, I'm not going to. What this... How do I call from there? Because I can't... It's not like... Open and... Yeah,
she may not have the app on
it's not.
phone.
It's not letting her... So what do we do?
Does she have... do you have her personal phone number?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
It's our patrol captain.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let me, think we can do it through Skype, but she would have to call a number, or maybe we can call out. I don't remember how it works.
I honestly thought she still had her deal up, but I guess it's not. Oh, that's sad. Armando. Didn't hit invite to Skype.
No. There was a way to call.
Funny picture. 23 cents a minute.
No, it's not that.
Call me now. So, folks, we're trying to do this real quick. It's. I know she had to change her Facebook because she had some issues.
Yes, sir. Okay, there it is. Okay, hang on. Yeah, she's calling on Facebook right now.
There it is, right there. You there?
Yeah.
Okay, Kim. All right. We got an echo there. It's like it's
Just a
echoing.
moment. Okay, can you hear me better?
Yes, I can hear you better. Now, this is a family show.
I had it on the
is,
Bluetooth.
and it is live.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Folks, let me introduce you to Kim Varell. This is my patrol captain. She works for us. She's been working for us for 13 years? How long have you been working this? It's been years.
For about 8 years now.
8 years? Well, 8 years, but you've been with Marty.
Marty since 2006.
Okay. That's a long time. Yeah, I can't even. That's crazy. So,
Seen it all.
yeah. So it's been, and I partnered up with him in 2008. So it's been what, since 14, 15 years. It's been that long. You've been with us for a long time. Let's put it that way. And she is our patrol captain. She runs our patrol in central Austin, and it's kind of the hub of the patrol. And then we have a guy that runs it up north, but Kim runs the central down to the south. So Kim and me have been talking for years about, the paranormal. And you have a lot of stories now. Kim, and believe it or not, folks, she works like all the time. She works every day. She barely takes a day off. So we've been on the back burner like, oh, yeah, at some point when you get off, let's just face it, you're always working. So, and that's your choice. But you are very good at what you do. That's why we pay you the big bucks. Yeah, you actually are the most high paid employee we have. But Kim, you have a lot of really, really interesting stories. And the other night, my wife's like, she really likes Kim a lot. And she's like, you really got to get Kim on there. You really need to get her on, make time. And so that's what we're doing tonight. So Kim, I want you to tell everybody who you are, what you like how this came to be.
All right. My name is Kim. I've been in this game for a long time, but I have an ability ever since I was little to see more along the lines of entities for the first few years of my life, where I could see the dead, but nothing other than that. After a few years, I wound up going into cardiac arrest 3 different times and passing away to where they had to bring me back. That gave me an even stronger ability to where I see more than just regular ghosts. I see more along the lines of demonic, where I can see them attached to people. I can see them walking around properties. I can see them everywhere I go. Some of them are not so bad.
When you died, it was giving birth, right, to your son?
Yes, I was giving birth to my youngest son, and my heart stopped 3 different times.
Yeah, cardiac arrest.
The final time, they had to literally hit me full of EPIs and all that, to start my heart back up again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing, basically, from what I was found out from a lady that can kind of read into people, she could see their auras and she could see about their lives and everything. I'm stuck between the living and the dead. I was technically supposed to have passed away, but something brought me back. So I live in both worlds where I can see both sides. Sometimes it can be scary. Sometimes it can be just kind of like, I'm just going to ignore what I see standing there.
Yeah.
The one that catches my eye the most is the tall demonic one. That one is the one that stands at least probably about 10 feet tall, real skinny with long, slender, claw-like fingers. I've seen it in multiple places, but one of my other properties, I see it at a lot, and it just stands there out on the outside, just staring in. It doesn't do anything other than just kind of stand there and wait around, and then when I start to move past it, it'll leave. I'm not sure what it's attached to because it stays specifically within this place other than one other of my locations that I've seen it at.
And we had this conversation because we were all together at one of our sites with another guard of ours who works for the company. And me and Nellie were there with you and that individual, which I'm going to try and get him on the show too. He's got interesting stories, but he was working that site and you were there to check on him, and we all kind of showed up at the same time. And my wife saw something that you and Kenny, the other guard, y'all have seen. And that was at one of our properties. Now, I didn't really see, I thought I saw somebody in the corner of my eye, but my wife saw it dead on. She saw what looked like a man. It looked like a man. And he walked, and it was weird because we thought there was a door there, and you and Kenny were very adamant. You're like, y'all work that site regularly. You go through there and patrol it, and Kenny works on the site, and y'all were like, there's no door over there. And I was like, well, where did this guy go? And then you're like, okay, look, this place is haunted. And you told me, you described to me an entity that you saw in that garage that Kenny also claimed to have seen, because Kenny had described it to me about a week before, and he says, if you don't believe me, ask Kim. Well, I already know how you are. I know I've known you for a long time, and I know that you do have an ability, and you have, like, I've worked at job sites, folks, where Kim gave me the heads up already. She was like, hey, there's something there, and I would encounter it. Yep. And it happened. I mean, and this happened multiple times. This wasn't like a one-time thing. And
you can see a lot of them walk around at night within that property. You'll see them walk through the walls. You'll see them just kind of standing there looking at you, and then they'll disappear real quick. And in that location, it's a garage. There's no doors to go through. So.
And as far for my guys, we'll be out of there. Tomorrow's the last night, and I'm actually glad because we've gone through 6 guards there, and every guard that's worked there has claimed that they have run into in the lower level of that garage. Kim, do you want to describe that entity?
There's a very strong presence. It's an unknown kind of, I would say, demonic, to where it literally watches you, and it just stands there, and you can see like the eyes mostly. It's like a black figure, eyes that are just kind of like glaring out in a red sense. You can hear the noises. You can hear it scraping the wall. You can hear it like just making all types of noise. It's in a point to where a lot of people are afraid to be in the garage by themselves. To where the point where sometimes I have to show up to make sure they're okay. And to make sure they haven't ran away.
Yeah, because we've had one guard just left, and that was it, and then she asked to get paid and goodbye. But that happens, and so one of the things that you were telling me, there was one particular property that you were at. I don't know if you want to get into that, where you saw something on the wall.
It was a gentleman. You can hear him running past you in the hallway, but there's no one there. It's just a long hallway. There's only doors that lead into the apartments, and it's got an elevator. I heard someone running past me and felt the cold breeze. And I'm like looking around like, okay, what was that? So I continue to walk down the hallway, and like I said, there's nowhere to hide. You cannot hide anywhere. No doors opened. Nothing has moved. I walked past the elevator. He's standing up against the wall, kind of hidden, like he's hiding from someone. So I turned back real quick to see the elevator never opened. No one disappeared. He's just gone. It's described as a white male, brown hair. He's got a blue sweater on with blue jean pants. At this time of year, it was summer. There's no way you're running around with a big puffy sweater on. One of my other residents said, did you see him? Can you see him? And I kept trying to figure out if she was talking to actually about the gentleman that keeps appearing on this certain floor at a certain time at night, like he's hiding from someone. We've also heard like screams of cries and like someone like in pain or something's wrong, but there's never no one found. I've tried to check into the backstory of it, but it seems that the property is hush-hush about what might have happened on the property prior.
And we were Go ahead.
He's not a bad person. It's just like it's like he's running for his life and he's trying to hide.
Sad. There was another site, and we can't give the names of these sites because they're our clients, and some of them still are our clients. And one of them in particular, there was a suicide that took place right before I took it over, but you had already been doing patrol there.
Yes.
And one of my guards came out to smoke a cigarette from the office, and they looked over and they saw this woman standing there. And for all intents and purposes, they described to us this person, and then you were the one that told us, hey, this person on the top floor killed themselves.
Yes,
and it was
a guest.
Yeah, and it was crazy because like I was walking up looking at my phone to go into that particular office, and I saw this woman standing there looking like she was in shock, and I said, oh. And before I could ask if I could help her, she was gone. And then when I talked to the guard, they were like, yeah, the guard that I relieved said that she saw this person standing there. That was shocking. And then to find out from you that there was, and so what Kim does on a regular basis is kind of a dangerous job. No, it is. It's not kind of, it is. And that's why you get paid more, but you do have a very dangerous job, and you do deal with a lot of people and bad stuff. And I asked you the other night when I was with Nellie and we were over at the parking lot that we do, and I asked you how you were able to maintain with what you were able to see on people. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you, as a person who is not just an experiencer, you're not a sensitive, you're psychic. And so how do you deal with it? Like, I mean, you're seeing these entities on a regular basis. And like you said, it started when you died, and you basically were revived. And then you came back and you had an ability that was stronger than what you originally had. Like, how do you deal with that? How do you like?
A lot of the times, I know when I see an entity compared to a demon. I can tell when the entity is in distress, when they're wanting help. I know that the reason they're making themselves known or their presence there is because they had unfinished business or they felt like they were not justified. A majority of them do. So my best bet is to maybe try to lead them away, to try to lead them to a better place. But with the demons, a majority of them, and I have that story that goes with one, comes with an attachment to something, either an inanimate object or a human. The demons, there's nothing you can do because of what they're attached to. If you approach, you say something, that gives them the ability to try to attach to you. I prefer not to have anything attached to me. Most of them are there just to kind of basically take your soul, kind of like to take away what they want is your life. Because most demons have never been a human. So their chance is to take a human form. With the demons, I've had one, she was playing with a Ouija board. Biggest mistake.
Say that,
You don't play with one, especially not by yourself, and you don't play in one in an apartment complex because you don't know what really happened there. A lot of that is a hush-hush situation, and they don't disclose that kind of stuff unless you ask about it. That is a good recommendation. If you are living in an apartment, ask if anyone has ever died there.
Yeah.
Strong recommendation.
And not just because of the human spirit, but what could have caused.
What could have caused it? As I said, my resident with the Ouija board had the markings on the walls, the floors and stuff. You could tell they were all demonic signs. Prior to her living there, someone else had lived there and did the same thing, because you can even see where she was removing the old wallpapering off the closet wall, which had all the markings. After that, bad stuff started happening to her because she touched the Ouija board that was from the prior person. That demon was already attached to it. It started doing stuff to her. It started hurting her. It started clawing at her. And basically, she started leaving bruises on her body and everything. And that is it trying to take possession of her because she touched that board, which was attached to her, to that demon. She opened that portal, and sometimes if you open it, there's no way to close it again before one of them come in. She had the one where she was nearly had her face ripped off by it because it grabbed her by her face. She had the huge claw marks where, if you really think about it, looked kind of like a Freddy Krueger moment. But that's what it was on her face. Where it just appeared out of nowhere and it just like grabbed her by her face and it ripped at her.
Wow.
I've seen a lot of bad things in apartment complexes. And the majority of them is because of either a murder, a suicide, or someone playing with a board they shouldn't have been.
So what is one of the scariest things that happened to you? And that you like? I mean, I know you don't get scared like normal people do. I don't either. I mean, like people say, how do you get used to it? Well, you just do. Like I don't go, oh my God, I'm scared, But the average person is going to be scared to death,
Was the one that was in an apartment complex that I still work, but I avoid that certain stairwell. I was walking and I could hear something behind me. And I kept feeling something trying to touch me. I even felt at one point something grabbed my hair. I knew something was in there, but I couldn't see it. Then at the point where I was getting down to just the lower level to get out into the garage, I had literally been pushed to the point where I fell down the stairs and hit the wall. Then it grabbed me, and it was like trying to pull me away. Literally I had bruising on my leg that I had to play off to my daughter because I didn't want her to know what happened. It had me by my leg trying to drag me down to the even lower level, which I never went down into because the moment I went down there the first time, I had it was like a dead weight holding on to me. Like I felt suffocated in this part. So I stopped going into that part of the garage. I was like, if you park your car there, good luck. I didn't go back down there. And then it literally was trying to pull me down the stairs. I was able to get away only by grabbing the handle and pulling myself away. But I left with scratches on my arm, a scratch on my neck, and my leg all bruised up from where it had me. I realized at this moment it was not caring who it was or what human it was getting. It just wanted that soul.
You feel like it wanted your soul?
I felt that it wanted to take that possession, my soul, because you could hear the growling while it was trying to pull me.
Mm.
I refused to go anywhere near that stairwell or anywhere near that bottom floor because you can feel its presence. Its presence is so, so strong. I had a resident that was walking around kind of like comatose. They were like in a different state of mind, just kind of walking around coming from that stairwell. And then was just standing there kind of limp. It wasn't that resident. I've known this resident. They were bubbly, perky, always bouncing around. Like they were one of those morning people that you just want to throw your coffee at. Mm-hmm. That was her 24/7. I seen her in that state and I kept trying to get her to kind of like talk to me. And she just kept mumbling something, but it didn't make no sense. It sounded more along the lines of a Latin kind of thing. Like she was speaking like a language that didn't exist no more.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this. So this particular incident, how long ago was that?
Probably a couple months ago.
Yeah, because I remember you were talking about it with Nellie and you scared the crap out of her with the stories. And she was just like terrified because we were talking about an apartment complex that no longer exists on Old Torf, which is, in South Austin. And I had an ex-girlfriend who, funny enough, she was my manager at Taco Bell, and I started dating her. I was like 17, she was like 24 or something. All my friends were like, whoa, because I was dating this older girl, and I'm using her car, living in her apartment, whatever. But she was, when we met, before we got a place together, she was living with her mother. And they had an apartment next door that had been evacuated by the people, evicted, whatever. And they went in there, her and her brother's girlfriend, and there was like markings all over the wall, which looking back on, I think it was blood, and they were like upside down crosses and 666 and all this other satanic stuff. And they had a Ouija board. And she didn't touch it, but her friend did. And the next thing you know, she's got something covering her mouth and trying to pull her off of the bed. And that complex had so many complaints, so many problems. People were just moving in and out of it all the time. And they knocked it down. It doesn't even exist anymore. It was there, and they built another one over it. And I'd be interested to hear the people that moved there, after they knocked it down and started over. Because
I'm sure they experienced stuff because you can tear down what it is, but it doesn't ever go away.
Yeah. Because the one particular one where you and Kenny saw the entity that looked like a guy in a gray coat that's down in the is it the bottom floor? I think it's the bottom of the garage. That place was redone.
He hides in between cars.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I was told by one of the other guards. Mike said that. Because there was another place there. And I talked to... It
used to be an apartment complex prior to that, and then they...
And it was pretty raunchy.
It to... Yep, it was.
It was pretty ratchet. And this one cop told me that area was really bad. That was a very bad spot. It was a lot of drugs, a lot of stuff going on. And we've had some guards that have seen these things. Now, tell me about what you saw when you went down into the bottom floor and you were driving. What did it look like? What did this...
It was just, you could tell it wasn't human, but you can tell that it was wearing like clothes, I guess you could say. It was kind of weird because it quickly, when it sees you coming, it tries to move but it tries to hide in the dark area, like it's trying to taunt you into that area. I don't ever get out of my car to go into one of those little dark spots because I don't trust it, because I don't know what it's wanting.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll literally see someone.
Hello? Kim? Kim? Oh man, I guess we lost her.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we thought the entities
Okay.
had taken you.
Sorry. I'm surprised one of them hasn't.
Good.
But no, it hides in between the cars, trying to taunt you into trying to get you to go over to that area where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my officers, just don't go until the lower level. Just stay right here.
Yeah.
Don't worry about anything else. Just stay right here.
It's a good thing that you're
behind
there to help them, because I've had guards that have been in some bad situations. I mean, not just with entities, but just in general, and you've always come through.
Yeah.
But it
I
has
have one
to be.
apartment where I'm walking through, and I've walked into their vacant units to kind of check to make sure there's no homeless or anything. And literally, my flashlight will go blinking, start blinking, blink, 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 and it just won't work. And I know my flashlight's charged because I charge it every night. And then when I left, my flashlight started working fine again. That tells me there's something there. I've also been told by someone, no mentions of names, that they know there's been a lot of bodies in that apartment complex, a lot of death. They're from murders to suicides to just natural death. That tells you it's got a lot of unwanted feelings in it.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people walking around in units in that place, and I'm like, it's time to go.
Let me ask you a question. Does anything ever follow you home?
I had one, and I knew I could because I kept seeing something in the backseat of my car. Yeah, that's kind of freaky, but I knew to just continue to ignore it until I got home, which I have a lot of kind of like, you could say, crystals, and I know about the mirror in front of your door, because if anything's with you, it'll bounce off that mirror and bounce right back out the door. That's why I made sure I have a mirror there, along with like the kind of like the pink sea salt, and you put it in each of your doorways or windows and all that, and it helps kind of build a barrier. You have to try to sometimes protect your home, because they will follow you if they feel that need to attach to you, especially if they feel like you have a strong soul or you have a strong body. They want to break that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had that one. It was sitting in the backseat of my car, and I was like, Lord have mercy. Let me just get home so I can go through my door and it can go away.
What did it look like?
Because it was just it was kind of weird, because he had like what looked like scars all over his face. It looked like he was burned or something. But it looked like he had like 2 bumps on his head. It kind of looked like wannabe horns. It was kind of weird because I kept looking at him. And he had the beady kind of like yellow eyes, like real yellow. And I was like, what the hell, man? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
I was
go
scared
ahead.
at this point.
You're good.
I was scared at this point on that one, because I was like, I know it's not good. Because I could hear its fingers like tapping my window. And I was like, oh, Lord. And this was because I made the mistake of going in to an apartment that had a really bad energy. It was drugs and very violent crime in there. And there was a lot of bad stuff in there. And I had been asked to go and check it to make sure no one was in it, because we finally got rid of everybody after the actual resident died. They found his body in there. We don't know exactly what happened to him. We were never given any information. It was just a suspicious death. So that came from his apartment. I know it did, because that was the only place that I had that really horrible tension in there. I could feel it. You can just feel even the police officer kept going, I don't feel good in here. And when you're saying you don't feel good, it's because something is there.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically, I guess he climbed into my car with me after I left, and I had to finish my patrol too, riding with them. Hey, dude, keep your hands to yourself for a moment. But I also made sure I had my stuff, like my St. Peter's and stuff like that, all my little different things that I've been given to kind of try, like, to protect me, like St. Michael and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I have some of those in my car. So I made sure to keep having my hands on it, to kind of rubbing it. I have one that hangs on my mirror that was given to me by my son.
Does it help?
I just kept rubbing it, it does help, trying to kind of keep them at bay. because I also have like a cross hidden in my armrest area. So it kept it enough in the back seat, but I knew it wanted my soul. I could tell because you could hear it whispering. You can hear, and it was just you can't make it out, but I could hear it. And the more I ignored it, it seemed to get angrier about it.
Yeah.
It was like it wanted me to acknowledge it, and I found out when you actually acknowledge them, that's when it comes after you, because it's basically like giving it permission. So I've learned to don't acknowledge anything that has that demonic sense to it or that possession to it. I've seen a lot of white figures and stuff. Those are your friendlier ones. Those are that's just an entity, a ghost of someone who passed away, that's just still here. I've seen those a lot when I was younger. Some of them even likes to play with you. I even had one cover me up when I was little. I kicked my blanket off and I was laying there, and this was shortly after my mom passed away. And I was just laying in bed sad. I felt the blanket get put back on top of me and kind of like tuck me in. I knew that was most likely my mother letting me know that she's still here.
Yeah.
You can see those, and you can feel their energy is so much better, so much, more love and care compared to some of the ones that I've seen a lot lately, especially out in the area I work. There's a lot of them that are really, really mean, like something's in them that they're just angry. They're full of hatred.
Yeah. And we have a few places now that I don't particularly like doing, but my business partner, and who you know very well, he insists on, we got to do this site because we have patrols attached to it, and I'm like, that's your deal, not mine, but I end up having to do it. And when I did the show, when I was on the episode of These Woods Are Haunted, it was season 3, episode 1. I was on the first set of the first show.
Seen that.
Yeah, and I went on there with Scorpion, and you know Scorpion very well, and we had the issue with the entities or whatever they were, that mission. Marty, he was the last one to go out there. He's my partner, and it wasn't until Ibada's funeral, God rest his soul, he's a good guy, we went out there to do the eulogy for him out there in Midland. And when we were driving out there, it's about a 5-hour drive, so me and him were, I got him to talk, and I was like, what did you see? He didn't want to tell me. Finally, I got it out of him. Like, it was like a woman. It was like a woman that had her face rotted. I was like, that's what I saw. But, at least getting him to acknowledge it, he doesn't like to acknowledge it at all. It scares him.
Yeah, he's one of those that is like, just, nope, don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, he's scared of it. Yeah, he says me and you are crazy. I was like, he's like, I don't know how you get on there on that show and talk about all that stuff. Oh, my gosh, it's crazy. Because there's a lot of weird stuff out there. And he says, well, if you ignore it, it'll go away. I was like, when you ignored it, did it go away? And he's like, not really. I was like, okay, exactly. But you went away. Like he got out of there because he was like terrified, and people don't realize, like, we've done several churches, and they're haunted as heck. They think, you go into the church and you'll be safe. No, because there's been 3 or 4 of them that we've done that were very scary, and the haunting was in there, in the church, in the actual church. And that's
what I explain to people. Sometimes there's a difference between an entity and a demonic possession, like a demonic person.
Oh, yeah.
The entity is more along the lines of a loved one or a friend or just someone who passed away, and they're still kind of here because they want to make sure they're there. They still want you to feel it. Because a lot of them will tell you they can't pass away and go away peacefully until you let them go. You let them know it's okay, I'm okay, you're better, you can go home. Compared to a demon, they're not going to walk away. They don't care what you say. They want what they want. And then most of it is to possess you in a human form.
Yeah. Spongy says on the live, says no loved ones are around after death. God doesn't allow it. Well, I think that depends. I think that typically that's the case, but not always. And I also believe that there are demons for real. I mean, they really are. And they do masquerade as spirits of the deceased, in particular with the Ouija board and with divination and all these other things. They can pretend. I mean, that's what it talks about in the Bible.
Well,
is them
a ghost
pretending.
can't touch you.
Yeah, a ghost technically doesn't. Yeah, they're not.
They have no physical form to even put their hands on you to do anything to you. The demon is the only one that has that.
Wow, you cut out again. I kind of knew this was going to happen when we started talking about this stuff. I mean, and anyways, Kim, are you there?
Are you there?
Yeah, you there?
Okay. Yeah. The other ones cannot. A ghost cannot touch you. It's just a human form that passed away.
No. Yeah, and so I don't totally believe that, because I felt my grandmother when I was sick with the H1N1. I do believe that she appeared to me, and she looked so much like my mother. I thought it was my mother, and I woke up and asked my cousin. I said, "Hey, was my mom in here?" Because my cousins were taking turns watching, sitting with me, because they thought I was going to die, and they were going to induce me into a coma because my blood pressures were so high they couldn't get it down. They thought this guy's going to die. I thought I might die, and I didn't. But it was the night that my fever broke, and they were like, "It's a miracle. You just woke up and it was gone." And they were like talking about how they were going to deal with me. And it was my abuelita on my mom's side. I remember rubbing my head, and I know it was a good spirit, because a demon's not going to comfort you and rub your head and be like, "It's going to be okay."
Well, the ghost will give you that sense. You can feel them in a sense where they are there, but they're not going to physically hurt you. They're there to kind of like wrap their arms around you. You can feel them, because I felt my mom. I was walking home one day, and this car tried to run me over. Someone pushed me out of the way. There was no one behind me, but I knew it was my mother protecting me. Mm-hmm. I can always feel her, because I can smell her perfume at certain times.
Yeah, you've been telling me that for years, that your mom has been around. Titan asked if you had any encounters with angels. That's a good question. We've never talked about that.
I believe what I seen that night when I was younger, there was it was a beautiful white light, like a white form. You could just see it. You could see the outline, but you couldn't see who it was. It was absolutely beautiful. I felt it like a sense, kind of like where it was soft, that it was there. It was just like a presence. And it was shortly after my mom had died. I was standing there in my bathroom doing my makeup as a kid. I was like, and I saw someone walk past and go into my bedroom. At first, I thought it was my sister, and then I realized she was not home. So I went back to the bathroom, and there it was again. It was just standing there, kind of like, you could see out of the corner, like out of my peripheral, I could see them. And I believe it probably was like an angel just kind of standing there. Maybe it's given me a sense that your mom is okay, because I had missed her so much, and I cried a lot. I cried all the time, because I didn't have anyone else in my life. I believe that was someone there to let me know she's okay, but she's still here with you. It was like just a calming sense. It did scare me, though, because I was a kid, and so I started running out. But you could tell there was like, it was just someone there giving you a gentle, "It'll be okay." And I believe that was probably an angel from the other side, just like, everything's okay. Because it was a beautiful white light.
How old were you?
I was 12. I was 11 when my mom passed away, and then I turned 12 that year shortly after she passed away.
You actually, we talked one night, and you were telling Nellie, but you actually, I'm not going to give the name of the place or whatever, but you lived in the complex that I had a close encounter with death in, and that place was haunted as heck. I mean, like, there was, like, I opened the door to one of the empty apartments when they were doing before they were doing the renovations on them, down at the bottom of the hill. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give away the name of the place, but it was not a good place at that time. And I went in there, and I saw something slide across the wall and make a rattling noise. It sounded like and I was like, "What in the heck?" I mean, it sounded like a rattlesnake. And so I shone my light, and my dog didn't react. And my partner, we walked around, and we didn't see anything. He saw it too. And up to the point when we worked in those places, he was a spiritual atheist. But after having worked different places, and then government housing too, working for the housing authority, we saw some really strange stuff. Like, we saw an apartment where a woman had been murdered, and we went in there. I believe it was this one happened at Thurman Heights. I believe it was Ralph Lamar. It's really bad. It was a Crip area. It was where the Crips were. And there was a couple of them we were friendly with, and they were just like, "Hey, man, we don't go." And they were hardcore gangbangers. And they're like, "We don't go in that building, that apartment." It's been nobody. They quit renting it out, so we went in there just to see what the big deal was. And there were 3 of us, and one of them now, I think he's a cop in Round Rock. I'm pretty sure that's where he's at. But I haven't talked to him in years. But we saw something that literally was squatted down, and then it backed up into the wall and went up like that. And we all were just in shock, and my dog just started flipping around, jumping around, trying to get out of the leash. And I had my leash wrapped around real tight in my hand, and I was telling Ivan to calm down. He was freaking out, and so we got out of there. But it was a very bad place. Not the one I'm talking about, the one on Lamar, but it was, those places were really bad. And then we did Meadowbrooks, which was a really bad place where people had been killed, and we saw some stuff there too, and then all those places had some horrible energy there in those places.
The apartment I live in now, I'm getting out of. When I first lived there, that's why I started putting my stuff up, all my kind of spiritual stuff and my mirrors and everything, because I was laying down in my room one night, literally just getting ready to go to sleep after getting off of work, and I heard the most horrific, like, holler kind of growl at the same time. I sat up like, what was that? I jumped up and made sure it wasn't one of my kids. My kids were all asleep. So I'm like looking around because it sounded like it was just in my room where I was at. It was like right by me. And I was like, what was that? And I started looking around my apartment, searching, opening closets, doors. I was like, what was that? Nothing. Couldn't find nothing. My son, he refused to sleep in the room that I was in because he says, something scares me, Mom. He goes, I'm afraid of your room. And my son, I've seen this boy running around the streets at night.
Yeah,
he ain't afraid.
Your son's not a coward, I can tell you that. He's he's got quite the reputation. He's a tough kid. Yeah, believe me. That's why I'm waiting for him so I can coach him to box. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kim. I was talking over you. Kim, are you there?
No, you're fine. So okay, I know. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
So I know something's there, but I can't see it. My kids all refuse to be in that bedroom. Mm-hmm. None of them will go into the main bedroom. You can feel it. You can sense whatever is there is just, it's angry. It's like you can hear it in the growl, the holler, it's aggression. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't sound human. And I know it ain't human because I can feel it.
Wow. Well, Kim, I'm going to have to let you go so you can get back on the beat. You were actually doing your rounds or whatever, and it's almost 10, but I appreciate you coming on. Now, folks, that's just a little bit of what Kim has. She's got a lot of stories, and we're going to do a recording together, and we're going to record and we're going to release it on the Friday show. And we'll start from beginning to end. And so thank you, Kim, for coming on. And I'll probably see you later tonight. I got to be out and doing stuff. So checking on the guards and waking people up. Make sure you go wake everybody up. So.
Oh, yeah.
You'll sneak up on them. They'll be like, I wasn't asleep. I wasn't asleep. Where am I at?
I love that I wasn't asleep.
I was watching YouTube. I was looking at the show. I was watching the show. Okay. All right. They don't even know that you were on the show. So. All right, Kim. I'll see you.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. Folks, that's Kim. She's works for us. Is one of my pretty much is my best guard. And she's a tough one. She's actually really tough. She's the police know her very well. They know that she, that they're always looking out for her, and she's out there doing her job. But she has an ability, and she's warned me on multiple occasions about certain sites, and then I'll get a call from a guard and be like, hey, I saw a shadow and there was nobody there and there was nothing attached to it, and I don't know what to make of this. I had a weird encounter at a place called Palo Santo's not there anymore. It's called something else now. And 3 of my guards actually live there now. But when we were working it, and Scorpion was, and Dee, we were all working together, Russell Clark, Zane, my nephew's uncle, we were all working it together, and we had some really weird stuff going on. Like, I would see it sometimes, but in particular, if I wasn't there, my guards would tell me that they would see a shadow walking around in one of the back buildings, and it would just go back and forth. And it fooled me a few times. I thought it was a person. And I got out of my truck and was like, hey, and I had a flashlight. And I'm not going to lie, our office right there, we had a pump shotgun. I mean, we were armed, but it was rough. And it was a bad place. And, I most of the time didn't even walk around with my gun. I really never hardly even had it. It was there, but I worked for 6 months there, and we got 36 evictions, and it was rough. There was a lot of drug dealers and a lot of pimps and a lot of bad people doing a lot of bad things. And the people that lived there would tell you there had been a lot of murders there. And there's a woman that got stabbed the second night we were there, and I was rethinking our decision, but at the time we needed the money, and I was like, hey, we really need to do this job. I mean, we have to. And my wife she didn't like it. I got to know the constables very well, and what we call the jump out boys, the police that worked there were the task force. We got to be on a first name basis with them, and we affected a lot of evictions. And that was a very bad place. But let me tell you what happened. One night I was in there in the office, and you had to babysit the place. You had 2 guards, and you couldn't have both of you guys in the office. So I'd go in and eat my lunch in the office. About 1 or 2, I'd change it up every night. You couldn't, because if they figured out a pattern, then they would do stuff. And so I had my guard outside of the office there, was D. And he would just wear in plain clothes. He didn't wear the uniform or anything. So they didn't even know, so he could watch. It was our strategy. And so we could catch who was doing what. And they eventually figured it out, and we had to switch it up again, and we'd use someone else, But so they thought, oh, well, the guard's in the office, So I thought that's what this was. And we had cameras in there that our guy had put in. And so when I'm sitting there eating my dinner, I hear, I'm not kidding. It was like a horror movie. I hear this noise, and I look over, and I'm eating, and I'm looking at the camera, and the camera is picking up 2 white guys. And I say that because there was only one white guy, or one apartment that had white people in there, and these guys were covered in tattoos. They were AB, if anybody knows what that is. That's what they were. But these 2 guys, they looked like they just come off the tennis court, and they looked like they were dressed from the 80s, and they had like those little shorts with the stripe on the side of them. And I'm like, these 2 dudes look so out of place. They just looked very out of place. And I was like, that doesn't belong here. It just doesn't. There's nobody that fits that description unless they're here to buy drugs. And so I got up and I knocked on the glass. I'm like, hey, and they're walking right by him. He doesn't see them. And folks, he's actually in the studio right here. D, I know if you're listening, if you can hear me, you can come in here if you want, and you can verify this. They walked right by him. He didn't see them. Okay. And I asked him, I said, I walked out, I said, what are you doing? You just let those guys walk right by. And he's like, what guys? He was out there vaping. So I walked right past him, and there's nowhere to go. There's a long hallway right there by the swimming pool. So we just looked down the hallway. There's nothing. So I went back in, I looked at the cameras, and I checked them from every angle. When they got around the corner, do you remember that, D?
Oh, yeah. Well, right when you started talking about being in the office, I put in the chat, you didn't see it. I said the office manager had been murdered in there.
Yeah, you can come sit down right here. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So anyway, we didn't see them. They disappeared. We didn't know where they went, and we both split up, and we went looking, and we had these high-powered Stinger flashlights that cost about $120 a piece, and you could see 300 yards away. We were everywhere. We didn't see, they weren't, there was nobody in the laundry room. They were out of place. But that was one thing that happened. Now, the other thing that happened, I know you remember this, D. Same thing. It was about 4 or 5 days either prior or after. I think it was prior to that, actually. I was in there and I was eating, and we had like a glass window. They've since renovated that office. It doesn't look anything like that now. But you could see from one room into the next. Remember that big picture glass? Yeah. And I was looking, and I see this shadowy ball-looking thing in the corner of the office, and I'm eating my dinner, and I'm like, what is that? And I'm looking around, and of course you were outside. It was during my turn because we would take turns. You would eat, then I would eat, And so while I was eating, Liberty 7076 is going to have a great conference. Thank you for that donation. I appreciate it. Also, Nirat, thank you for your donation. Vortex, thank you for your donation. Appreciate that. But I was sitting there eating, and I knocked on the glass, and you turned and you walked in. At that point, the thing had grown. And when you came into the office, when he came in the office, I said, look at this. You could see it on camera, but you couldn't see it like straight ahead. Like I saw it at the very beginning, and then that was it. I couldn't see it anymore, but you could still see it on camera. So we sat there in the office, and we watched this thing develop into what looked like a man.
Yeah.
Or like the pillar, like a man with, like you can see the arms.
Yeah.
And so we got the camera guy to come in, Wilton. I always tease him. I say he looks like Don Cheadle. He does really look like Don Cheadle. He's a good guy. I've been knowing Wilton forever, but then he comes in and he's like, I don't know, man. He's over there messing with the cameras, and he's like, this is weird. I can see this whatever that is on the camera. He goes, it's there, but I don't know what it is. And he's like, and you guys couldn't see it when you looked head on? I said, no. At first I did, and then it went away. You could not see it. But you could see it on the camera. And we both were scratching our heads, and then of course we had that the security guard office, which was across from the main office, where we kept, our stuff, and we started working out of that office. And one day I went in there, and I was like, I had the day shift. Remember how it was 24/7? Yeah. So I had to go in on the day shift, and I was tired. I was dragging, and I had worked 4 hours of the night before. So I went home and slept for 4 hours, and then went up there. And my wife was in the hospital that time, and I was so stressed out. And so I go into and I'm like, and I'm like, I had a toothbrush and my brush. I just like got ready at the office. Sometimes I even showered there. And so I went in, and I was brushing my teeth, combing my hair, and I hear the door open like right behind me. And you remember how there was it was the bedroom. There was like a bedroom, and it was that bathroom was right there. Yeah. There was no door. Yeah. And so I was like, what the heck? But I heard a door. And so I opened my eyes real wide, and I see a guy turn and look around the corner and go back. And I was like, whoa. And I turned, and I thought somebody just came up in here, even though I had locked it. And he looked like an African-American man. And Luis was from El Salvador. He was the maintenance guy, and it didn't look anything like him. And Hector he's Latino, he's Mexican. So it wasn't one of them. And so I turned and I looked, and there was no one there. And I just went out into the kitchen, and it was just creepy, If you went in there at night.
Yeah, there was negative energy there, and you would always see stuff like that, or, get a glimpse of something, and then it's not there. It's like, I just chalked it up to people that got murdered there, or people that OD'd there, and were coming back for whatever reason. There,
yeah. Well, what's crazy is, when the 2 days after we first started, a woman got stabbed, and then I think 2 weeks after that, a woman OD'd in the front of the building, and then another woman had gotten beaten and then died in the hospital, and then some guy walked out and got hit by a car because he was high on PCP, whatever the heck he was on.
I'll change the mics when I get here. Do a little better.
Okay. So we had a lot of activity going on, and we would see shadows, and like Dee was saying, you would it was just like a never-ending disco of weirdness,
Yeah.
And you'd just be sitting there, and you would think you would see somebody. And I remember apartment 114, or one of those apartments, they were dealing heroin.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there, we were watching them, and so we had to document everything they were doing so we could get the eviction. And sometimes the jump out boys would pull up and they'd say, hey, what's going on? And we'd just watch it, and we're pretty much paying attention to this. And I remember clearly seeing something come out of the door and go to the right, and I thought, okay, I'm going to stop this person. And we go over there, and there's nothing there. It was like a shadow that just disappeared. And so you would see the shadows moving through the corridors like all the time, and you were just like, even in broad daylight. But gradually, as the people began to be evicted, I think a lot of it went away. I think a lot of it was attached to the people.
Oh, yeah.
Not just the property. Now, there was stuff that was attached to the property. Of course, if you walk through the rocks, there were syringes everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And you had to be careful because there were literally, like, we found, like, I think half a dozen syringes in one spot underneath this big oak tree where people used to, I guess, shoot up and then throw their needles. It was a bad place.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of activity in that place. And then we had a constable tell us that, yeah, that's where we found Panzer, our cat, actually. But we actually, I remember the constable was a friend of me and Scorpion's. His brother used to be a friend of ours. And he died in a boating accident. But we were sitting there talking to him one day, and he told us, he said, hey, you know that there was a murder here. There was not just like any old murder. There was the apartment manager several years ago when he was a young guy. I think he said it was when he first started as a police officer. Somebody walked right in and just shot the apartment manager and one of the maintenance people, and the maintenance guy lived. But unfortunately, the manager died. And when we started there, the apartment manager would not show up. He was terrified to be on that property. He was scared of everybody, which is why he was paying us $32 an hour. So we needed the job. We took the job. We did the job. We cleaned it up. It's pretty calm now. It's surrounded by negative, though. It's a very bad area.
Yeah, that whole area is. There's always drugs
it's bad.
and murders. And...
Yeah, and we're actually doing one of the places down the street, not by my choice. But like I said, my business partner, we got to do this, whatever. I could have refused it, I guess, but whatever.
He was there in the daytime in the beginning. People pointing guns at him.
Yeah, and then but I basically kicked him off the side because I was like, I don't need you getting hurt. At that time, I guess he was 65 years old or 60.
Old man.
I told Marty, I said, you can't be out here, man. Let me handle this, And so I took it over. And one of the reasons why I took the job was not just because we needed the job, but because he was going to do it if we didn't do it. And I was afraid the lack of respect for him, they would do something to him. And so I ended up doing it. And I knew some people there.
Yeah.
Because I used to work downtown doing at the club, So there were some people that were there, and some of them old timers told him, hey, this is not a normal security guard. You need to be careful because he will beat the hell out of you. And maybe worse. So people, we had a few little encounters. And people learn.
Once the old guys talked to him, most of them chilled out.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty hard.
Well, I had to slap a pimp.
Yeah.
Up in there. And then another one he was big. It was a big guy. I'm not bragging. I'm just gonna say it was a big guy, and I was on the steps about that high off the ground. He was taller than me, and I told you, go look in the camera and see if I'm on camera. And I was like, boom. And then he got up, and once he ran down to the end of the complex, then he's like, I'll be back. Yeah, sure you will. Sure you will. You'll be back. Yeah.
That one's going to come back blasting.
They're going to come back blasting. Never happened.
Yeah.
But whatever. Anyway, bad place, bad things, a lot of entities and things moving around in that place. And I remember one time the apartment manager calling me, and she was in the restroom, and she was terrified to come out of the restroom. So I had to go in there. And she said, I heard something moving around in the office. Remember? I told you about that. You weren't there, and she heard like papers and stuff moving around, and the box that held the printer paper had been opened and strewn about. And I was like, what the heck? And she was terrified. And so I just was like, okay, and then there was a guy that came in there, and he was loud and talking, and he was going to do something to her, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up basically gently applying pressure to his neck and carrying him out of the office.
About the guy that ended up running out into traffic and...
We should talk. I had the cops called on me multiple times by the residents. Let's put it that way. One person, I gently beat him about the face, breast, chest, neck, and head area because he was beating up a female resident, and he was hardcore, dog. So I had to show him that I was harder core. Let's put it that way. And so there were a few incidents. Scorpion pushed the guy out into the street. And the guy stood out there screaming and yelling because the crack dealers had ripped him off which I was like, you probably should leave because they're probably going to shoot you. And I told him, I said, I don't know what you did or what you didn't do, but you need to leave. And he stood out in the street, and then somebody who looked like they were probably not from here and illegal hit him, and their mirror flew off, and the guy's arm did. Well, that was weird. Yeah. The guy's. I was like, I just saw the door open, and so the guy's arm flew up in a weird angle. Like, imagine if you just took your arm and did like this, like whoop, like your arm goes up like this, and this guy's arm went completely whoop whoop, and it was completely torn, messed up. So he laid out there. He laid out there, and he stood out there in the street screaming, and then went and laid down on the park bench, or the the bus bench.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the police come, and he's telling them that I assaulted him and beat him into the street. So I had to get the crack dealers to back up my story and say, nah, man, that's not what happened. Wolf didn't beat him up. No, that's not what happened. So the one police officer was like, well, I'm not going to take the word of drug dealers. I'm like, well, that's the only people that are out here is the buyers and the dealers and me. So you can take my word for it. Scorpion, he tried to punch me. Scorpion caught his arm and shoved him in the street. His choice was to leave or stay out in the street. He chose to stay out in the street and get run over.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. It was that kind of place. It was just a bad place. It was a bad scene, bad place.
Maybe he wants to be famous.
No, we're good right now. We're about to get off the air. So, folks, I'm just telling you, we've been through some stuff. And this was my last hurrah as far as I'm concerned with the bad housing stuff. My wife made me promise I wouldn't do it no more. I do have a couple of accounts that are not good. I mean, as opposed to accounts that are good being that they're not as dangerous. But I personally try to not work them because my wife gets really bad anxiety when I do. Me personally, I don't really care. I can handle this kind of stuff. I've been doing it for years. It's not really, it's old hat to me.
Yeah.
They come out and they're I'm gonna cut throat. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm hard. And yeah, probably, but probably not. And I really don't care.
Yeah.
And then they say, I ain't scared of you. You don't need to be. It's gonna hurt either way.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Being afraid is a requirement.
Yeah, being afraid is not a requirement to get hurt. You will be hurt either way.
Yeah.
But I prefer not to have that problem. But people always want to test. Hey, let's act the fool, see what happens.
Keep the street cred, man.
Yeah. But I have to keep my cred too. Dog. Anyways, folks, it's been real. It's been fun. Tell me what you think of this, because my wife's friend makes these, and she did such a good job. Look at that. Isn't that cool? The detail, everything. And it's like a little. I think it's awesome. I'm going to make some for the conference. If God willing and she's okay with that, I'm going to have her make some for the conference, and we might give them away as door prizes or something, or maybe sell them, or I don't know what we're going to do. But anyway, folks, Eventbrite, go to Eventbrite and look up Paranormal Round Table Presents First Annual Dogman Cryptid Conference. Buy your tickets. Hang out with us. Okay, I have every intention on Saturday of hanging out after everybody's done speaking. If you're not too tired, okay, and you're up for it, we hang out. I'll tell you some stories. You hang out with all the speakers and the guys that are there and the girls that are there, and we're all just going to hang out because that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to try and make it a point to talk to each and every one of you, and I'll give you something. And I hope that everybody that wants to attend can attend. We still have tickets left. We sold a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, but we're not done yet. We still have some. You can still get some. I'm predicting probably by mid-July there won't be any more. At the rate we're going, I did the math and I was like, oh, we'll probably be out by mid-July. So but we always get a surge after the show. So, if we get a couple more big surges like we've had, probably by the end of this month. So you won't have much time. If you want to get them, you need to get them. And I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to upsell or anything like, oh, you better go buy them, whatever. If you want to go, you want to go. If you can't, you can't. I understand. I'm not going to hold it against you. You'll be dead to me. That's all I got to say about that. I'm just kidding. I could never turn my back on my family. Anyways, I had fun. I hope you had fun. I got to run. My wife's got me doing errands for her. Congratulations to Johnny Depp. You know, Aquaman. Ooh, got the Aquaman watch, Aquaman shirt. I've never met Jason Momoa or Amber Turd or Johnny Depp though. I've met a lot of celebrities, but I've never met them. But don't be too hard on McConaughey, guys. He's not a bad guy. He really is not. I mean, you got to listen to everything he was saying, and a lot of what he was saying was making sense. But you know, let's not play into their hands too much. You know what I mean? But let's also keep it. Just use common sense. All right. Pray for the families of the victims in Uvalde. He's a Uvalde native, so he had something to say about it. I understand he's emotional, whatever. But anyways, all right, guys. I'll see you later, everybody. Hopefully, I'll see you at the conference. We'll have fun. Good night.